There comes a time when the soul must ask itself, not what the world thinks of it, but what light burns within it. In an age where glitter is mistaken for gold and shadows wear the faces of saints, there remains a question more urgent than ever. What truly marks the heart of a person? These marks are not drawn in ink or blood, nor measured by fame or fortune, but etched deep in the unseen fabric of one's spirit. Each mark tells of a choice made when no one was watching, of truth over comfort, of courage over silence, of love over pride. And if one dares to look closer, these marks reveal not what we pretend to be, but what we are becoming. In every generation, truth has never arrived with trumpets or banners. It has walked quietly, often in the shadow of misunderstanding. It is not the one who speaks loudest that carries truth, but the one who stands firm when silence costs more than speech. The mark of truth is not in the sound it makes, but in the stillness it creates within those who hold it. For truth does not depend on applause, nor does it crumble under mockery. It simply endures, patient as the dawn that never rushes to convince the night. It waits, always waits, until the noise of falsehood exhausts itself. And when it does, truth stands exactly where it was, unaltered, unafraid, and unmoved. Those who bear this mark walk a different road. Their voices may tremble, but their hearts do not. They are not concerned with being believed, because they know that truth has its own voice, and it will speak when the time is right. They do not chase crowds, nor do they fear solitude, for they understand that the crowd has never been a compass. Truth, to them, is not a flag to be waved, but a light to be carried. It does not seek to dazzle, only to reveal. In their company, you sense not the heat of argument but the warmth of clarity. Their calmness disarms confusion, their restraint silences pride. They are not quick to answer, because they know that truth rarely hurries, and what is hurried is seldom whole. The world, however, mistakes their quietness for weakness. It honors the loud and dismisses the steady. Yet every age proves the same lesson, that noise fades, but truth remains. The rivers of falsehood may rage, but they tire themselves against the rocks of patience. And those rocks, those souls who refuse to move, become monuments of endurance. They have learned that to hold truth is to carry a sacred fire, one that cannot be shown too often or too easily. For truth shared without reverence becomes opinion, and opinion shouted too long becomes arrogance. The mark of truth protects against both, teaching the bearer humility before revelation. Truth does not beg to be understood. It invites the seeker to be transformed. That is why those who love it are seldom comfortable. They feel the weight of its light. It exposes their motives, their fears, their comforts. And yet, they cling to it because they know that even its fire heals. Their conviction is quiet because it has already been tested. They do not need to prove it anymore. They live it. When they speak, their words do not rise above others, but they sink deeper. Their truth is not heard by every ear, but it reaches every heart prepared to listen. For truth has always spoken in whispers, never in shouts. It is the still, small voice that follows the storm, the echo that remains when the noise has passed. The mark of truth is peace amid conflict, clarity amid confusion, gentleness amid pride. It cannot be counterfeited, because it is not a style but a state of being. Those who have it walk as if the world's chaos has lost its power over them. They no longer argue for truth. They reflect it. They do not fear the dark. They illuminate it. They are free, because they no longer need to convince. Their lives themselves become the evidence of what they believe. Such souls become mirrors. When you look at them, you do not see them. You see what is true. In the end, this mark is not a possession but a transformation. It cannot be borrowed, and it cannot be performed. It grows only in the heart that has learned to be silent before what is greater than itself. It is the fruit of surrender, the reward of patience, the calm after wrestling with doubt. The one who carries it may never be celebrated, but they will be remembered. For long after the voices of the proud have vanished, their quiet conviction remains. Like a single candle that never went out, even when the wind was against it. There is a kind of power that does not shout, a kind of courage that does not march, a kind of greatness that kneels. The mark of humility is strength under silence. It is not the posture of defeat, but the stance of one who knows the battle is already won by something greater than pride. The humble soul is not weak. It is disciplined. It does not bend to man's praise or tremble at his scorn, for it has learned that both are fleeting. The world has mistaken humility for timidity. But it is quite the opposite. It is the restraint of a lion who chooses not to roar. To be humble is to possess strength that does not depend on display, to walk with power that needs no proof. The truly humble do not speak of themselves, not because they think less of who they are, but because they are too occupied with what is true beyond themselves. They understand that all goodness is borrowed, all talent is entrusted, and all honor is temporary. They live as stewards, not owners. When they are praised, they bow their heads, not out of false modesty, but because they know the light shining on them is only reflected. They do not compare themselves, for comparison is the language of pride. Instead, they live with an inward quietness, content to serve unseen, to labor without applause, to forgive without recognition. Their silence is not emptiness. It is full of understanding. It is the silence of one who listens before speaking, who waits before acting, who loves before judging. The humble heart does not boast because it has nothing to prove. It has already found its worth in the one who made it. And so, it carries itself with an effortless dignity, the kind that cannot be taught, only received. When others rush to assert themselves, the humble one remains still, for they know that time reveals what words cannot. In their stillness lies their authority, for humility does not need to demand respect, it earns it quietly. Their presence brings ease to others because they do not compete, and where there is no competition, there is peace. You can trust the humble soul, for it has no hidden agenda. It does not seek to win, only to serve. But humility is not born in comfort. It grows in the soil of surrender, watered by disappointment, and ripened through the letting go of pride. The one who is humble has often been broken, not by weakness, but by love, by the realization that everything they once called theirs was a gift all along. Such a person walks softly, for they know how fragile the human heart can be. They forgive easily because they have been forgiven much. They do not seek revenge because they have learned mercy's weight is lighter than anger's chain. Their silence, though misunderstood by the loud, speaks volumes to the listening heart. It says, I do not need to prove my worth. I already know from whom it comes. Humility is the shield of the strong. It guards the heart from arrogance, which blinds the soul faster than ignorance ever could. It keeps the wise teachable, the rich generous, the gifted grateful. It is not the enemy of ambition, but its purifier. It teaches ambition to serve, not to conquer. And when trials come, humility stands unshaken, for it was never built on the fragile stones of ego. While pride collapses under criticism, humility learns from it. While arrogance resists correction, humility welcomes it. It is the only soil in which true wisdom grows. The world celebrates the loud and overlooks the gentle. Yet history remembers the humble. Those who built rather than boasted, who healed rather than harmed, who lifted others without lifting themselves. Their strength was not in dominance, but in restraint, not in control, but in surrender. They did not need to be first, because they were secure in being faithful, and when they left, the memory of their quiet strength lingered longer than the echoes of the proud. That is the mark of humility, strength under silence. The kind of strength that outlives the noise, that endures without announcement, and that shines brightest when unseen. The mark of love is service without witness. Real love is not found in declarations or grand gestures that demand applause. It is born in the quiet places, in the unseen corners where only God and the soul meet. It lives in the doing, not the showing. The truest kind of love asks for no recognition. It finds its joy in giving, not in being seen giving. It is not performed before men, but offered before heaven. To love in this way is to serve even when it costs you, to give when no one notices, to stay kind when there is no one to praise it. Love becomes real only when it loses the desire to be admired. The soul that bears this mark does not count its sacrifices. It does not measure how much it has done or how much it has been appreciated. It simply serves, because service is its nature. Such a person is moved not by reward but by compassion. Their kindness flows naturally, like light through a window. It does not announce itself, it simply shines. They are the ones who clean up what others spill, who comfort when others withdraw, who pray for those who hurt them, who forgive without being asked. They are not saints in the world's eyes, but the world survives because of them. They live quietly, sometimes forgotten, yet they hold everything together. True love does not keep records. It forgets how much it has given and remembers only how much more it can give. It does not ask, "Do they deserve it?" It asks instead, "What would mercy do?" The heart filled with love is free from the bitterness of expectation. It gives without demand, knowing that nothing done in sincerity is ever lost. For in the unseen economy of the divine, every secret act of goodness is already seen and rewarded. Love that seeks no witness is the purest offering, because it is done for the sake of love itself. Not for approval, not for reputation, but because it reflects the nature of the one who first loved us. Such love transforms the soul. It teaches the giver more than the receiver. It trains the heart in humility, the mind in patience, and the spirit in trust. It teaches that to serve others is not to lower oneself, but to rise into the likeness of something eternal. The world sees service as subordination, but heaven sees it as strength. For to love in secret is to prove that one's motive is not glory but grace. You may not find these people on platforms or in portraits, but you will find them where compassion is most needed. In the hospital room, in the quiet home, in the shadows of the unnoticed. Their hearts become sanctuaries where others find peace. Love without witness is the most courageous love, because it gives without guarantee. It asks for nothing in return, not even understanding. It loves the ungrateful, the distant, the difficult, because its source is not in them, but in God. It knows that real love must sometimes bleed, that service will sometimes be misunderstood, that kindness may be met with silence. But still it gives, still it endures, still it forgives. This is the secret majesty of love. It does not depend on the response of the world, but on the consistency of its own heart. And so, the mark of love is not loud. It does not seek the stage, for its reward is inward, a peace that cannot be traded, a joy that cannot be stolen. It finds fulfillment not in being noticed, but in being true. It is the kind of love that keeps the world from falling apart, though few ever see it doing so. It is the unseen prayer that holds a breaking family together, the hidden generosity that saves a stranger, the quiet forgiveness that ends a cycle of hate. These are the small miracles that never make headlines but change eternity. To serve without witness is to love like the divine. To give freely, love quietly, and trust that every unseen act echoes forever in the chambers of heaven. The mark of faith is endurance without proof. It is the quiet steadfastness of a soul that continues to trust even when the lights have gone out, when prayers seem unanswered, when every visible reason to believe has been stripped away. Faith is not the absence of doubt. It is the decision to walk forward despite it. It is the courage to hold on to what cannot be seen, to whisper, "Still I trust," when everything around whispers, "Give up." The one who bears this mark does not demand signs or proof, for their belief is not a bargain but a bond. They know that the unseen is no less real than the visible, and that the greatest truths are often hidden behind silence. Faith does not live in the comfort of certainty. It grows in the wilderness of waiting. It begins where understanding ends. It is forged not in ease, but in endurance. The faithful heart learns to see light without needing to see the sun. It learns to sing in the dark, to stand in the storm, to find purpose even in pain. Such faith does not crumble under the weight of delay, for it has learned that the author of all things writes in eternal time, not human haste. It knows that even when God seems silent, he is not absent, that every unanswered prayer is shaping something unseen, something necessary. And so the believer waits not idly, but actively, with patience, with gratitude, with a quiet defiance that says, "I will not let go." This endurance is not the product of stubbornness, it is born of love. The one who truly trusts does not obey for reward, nor love for comfort. They do so because they know the one they serve is good, even when life is not. Their faith is not a fragile feeling that wavers with circumstance. It is a rooted conviction that remains when emotion dies. They have learned that belief is not about seeing miracles, but about becoming one. Every step they take through uncertainty becomes an act of worship. Every day they rise again after disappointment. They declare that faith is stronger than sight. But the path of endurance is lonely. The world admires proof, not perseverance. It honors the visible victory, not the quiet holding on. Yet in heaven's eyes, the one who endures unseen is more victorious than the one who triumphs with applause. For faith refined through suffering shines with a radiance that no comfort can produce. It becomes pure, free of self, free of condition. When faith has been tested by silence, it becomes unshakable. When it has been burned by trial, it glows with a light that even darkness respects. Such a soul can stand in ruins and still believe in rebuilding, can walk through grief and still believe in goodness. Enduring faith transforms a person. It teaches them to see differently, to recognize the divine hand in what others call coincidence, to feel purpose in what others call pain. It sharpens their vision, not outwardly, but inwardly. They learn that proof is a mercy for the beginner, but endurance is the mark of the mature. Proof satisfies the mind, but endurance purifies the heart. And when the heart has been purified by waiting, it no longer needs to see in order to trust. It trusts because it knows whom it belongs to. The mark of faith is this quiet, unyielding endurance. It does not panic when life delays, nor crumble when promises seem far. It keeps walking, even limping, toward the unseen good. It finds meaning in the meantime, grace in the gray, and strength in surrender. The faithful soul knows that silence is not abandonment, and that the hidden plan of God is often more merciful than the one we pray for. So it endures, not as a victim of waiting, but as a witness of hope. This is the faith that outlasts the storm, that outshines the doubt, that survives even when all else fails. For faith is not proven by what it receives, but by what it refuses to release. His glory in simplicity and reveals his grandeur in the smallest things. The mark of eternity is simplicity. It is the quiet truth that all that lasts is humble, and all that dazzles too brightly fades too soon. The eternal does not boast, it endures. It does not need decoration, for its beauty is inherent. Simplicity is not poverty of form, but purity of essence. It is the stripping away of all that is unnecessary until only the real remains. In a world addicted to excess, the simple soul is revolutionary. It lives with clarity, not clutter, with depth, not display. It seeks not to appear, but to be. There is a certain strength in simplicity, a calmness that comes from knowing what truly matters. The eternal things are always simple truth, love, faith, mercy, light. They do not change with fashion, nor depend on approval. They remain quietly, while empires rise and fall, while voices shout and fade. The simple heart lives close to these eternal things. It does not waste itself on the transient, the loud, the showy. It finds joy in stillness, meaning in the ordinary, holiness in the small. To live simply is to align oneself with the rhythm of eternity. It is to walk through life unburdened by the constant need to prove, to perform, to possess. The wise understand that everything truly great is also simple. The stars do not compete to shine, they simply burn. The ocean does not declare its power, it simply moves. And the soul closest to God reflects this same quiet majesty. It no longer strives to be extraordinary, for it has learned that holiness hides in the humble. It finds eternity in moments, a child's laughter, an honest prayer, a sunrise over a tired world. These are not grand, yet they are infinite. Simplicity opens the eyes of the heart to see eternity disguised in the common. It teaches that complexity often distracts, but simplicity reveals. The mark of eternity is seen in the life that has learned to let go. The simple soul does not cling to many things, because it has found the one thing worth keeping. It does not chase possessions, for it has discovered peace. It does not demand attention, for it has found purpose. The one who bears this mark can lose much and still feel whole, because their joy is not rooted in what can be taken. Their life is spacious, uncluttered, filled with quiet meaning. They have mastered the art of being content, not in abundance, but in alignment. And in that alignment, they touch the eternal. Simplicity is not the rejection of the world, but the redemption of it. It takes what is ordinary and restores its sacredness. It does not despise beauty or comfort, but it refuses to be owned by them. It lives gratefully, freely, aware that every breath, every moment, every kindness is enough. The eternal soul does not fear the passage of time, for it knows that time cannot touch what is simple and true. The simple life leaves space for wonder, for prayer, for reflection. It listens more than it speaks, gives more than it gathers, trusts more than it controls. It is the opposite of restlessness. It is peace wearing the shape of a person. And so, the mark of eternity rests upon those who have chosen simplicity, not out of lack, but out of love. They move quietly through the noise of the world, untouched by its haste. Their presence calms rather than competes. They do not argue for their value, they embody it. They have become like the eternal itself, steady, silent, unchanging, yet infinitely alive. They remind us that what is most divine is never complicated, and what is most lasting is never loud. In their eyes there is a depth that words cannot reach, and in their lives, the timelessness of things that never needed to shine to be eternal. The mark of the soul is remembrance. It is the quiet awareness that beneath the noise of the present lies an ancient truth, the echo of where we came from, the whisper of who called us into being. The soul is not defined by its achievements but by what it remembers. It remembers light before darkness, belonging before exile, peace before struggle. To live as a soul is to live remembering. Forgetfulness is the disease of the age, remembrance is its cure. When the soul remembers, it awakens, and all illusions fall away. Remembrance is not nostalgia for what was, but recognition of what always is. It is the turning of the heart back to its source. The mark of a living soul is that it cannot be fully at home in a world that forgets God. It feels the ache of something missing, the pull towards something eternal. This restlessness is not despair, it is direction. The soul remembers its origin, and in that memory lies its longing. The world teaches distraction. The soul teaches recollection. It calls us to return again and again to the center where meaning begins. Every prayer, every act of stillness, every moment of awe is the soul remembering who it is. Those who bear this mark do not live from the surface, they live from depth. They see beyond appearances, for they recognize the eternal pulse behind all things. When they look at creation, they do not see chaos, they see signature. When they hear silence, they do not hear emptiness, they hear invitation. They live with the awareness that every heartbeat is a reminder, every sunset a message, every kindness a reflection of something unending. They remember, not with the mind, but with the being itself. To them, faith is not theory but memory, memory of what their spirit has always known but their flesh forgets. Remembrance gives the soul resilience. When others fall into despair, the remembering soul endures, because it recalls that darkness is never final. When grief comes, it holds on to the memory of mercy. When loss strikes, it remembers the giver behind the gift. This remembrance anchors the soul against the tides of forgetfulness that sweep through every age. It keeps it gentle amid cruelty, grateful amid abundance, and hopeful amid ruin. Such remembrance is not an act of intellect, but of love. It is the heart's refusal to forget the one who never forgot it. Yet this remembrance demands stillness. It cannot be found in the noise of constant pursuit, but in the quiet of surrender. The soul must make room to remember, must pause to let the echoes return. In the rush of modern life, where everything demands attention, remembrance becomes a rebellion. To stop and remember is to declare that you are more than what you do, that life is more than motion, that existence itself is sacred. The remembering soul walks through the same world as everyone else but sees it differently. It greets the morning not as routine but as renewal. It meets the night not with fear but with trust. The mark of the soul, then, is this holy remembering. A continual turning toward the eternal amid the temporary. It is the quiet fire that keeps meaning alive in an age of distraction. Those who remember walk softly, for they know every step is sacred ground. They speak gently, for they recall the weight of words. They love deeply, for they have not forgotten the love that made them. Their remembrance becomes a light for others, awakening what slumbered in forgotten hearts. And when their days end, they do not fear the return, for they have spent a lifetime remembering where they were always meant to go.